Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CPA MOMS Podcast. I'm Nicole, your host and brand ambassador of CPA MOMS, where we believe that real success is only meaningful if it holds up in every area of your life, what we call the 4 Fs: financial, firm or career, family, and fitness. If one area is lacking, then the rest lose their meaning. You can grow an incredible career, but if your peace and presence are gone, it won't feel like success. You can build wealth, but if you're too exhausted to enjoy it with the people that you love, then it loses its purpose. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Alicia Katz Pollock to the podcast. Alicia is the founder of Royal Wise Solutions, Inc., and one of the most recognized names in the QuickBooks world. She is a top 10 pro advisor, a top 50 woman in accounting, and an Apple certified trainer who has helped thousands of accountants and business owners master technology and systems to simplify their workflows. With her unique blend of technical expertise and teaching experience, Alicia makes accounting smarter, faster, and a lot more human. Hello, Alicia, and welcome.
Hi, Nicole. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to get into this today. So, I want to dive into technology and change and how that affects us as accountants. And I know, like, just in general, accountants tend to resist change. Why do you think that is, especially when it comes to technology?
Well, accounting traditionally has had a right way and a wrong way of doing things, and the software has been built from the ground up with the end result in mind. And so the QuickBooks as we know it, which is now going on, 30 years old, maybe even more than that, was built originally with the intention of easy data entry to create accurate reports. And while that is still the core of what we do, the world has moved on and technology has moved on. And so now we have the shiny object squirrel syndrome, where it's not just about, are my reports right for business administration and growth and tax reporting, but now it's also, well, how can I leverage technology to make my life easier?
Yeah, definitely. So, and you brought this up, so I'm going to kind of ping off of that is shiny object syndrome, right? Like, how can firm owners tell whether it's truly needed, a new software is truly needed, or it's just shiny object syndrome?
Well, when you're, let's actually start with the basic need that if you find yourself doing the same thing 3 times in a row manually, you can bet there is a software solution out there that can streamline it and automate it so that you can teach it what you do and then you can just trigger it and it will do it for you. And whether I'm just talking about machine intelligence and just software programming or actual AI, that is where technology is going, is how can I take away the routine repeatable drudge work so that I can focus on more higher level skills.
Great.
And then you layer on the shiny object, is like,
Right.
lots of people come up with software solutions, and there's always the challenge of, well, how do you know which ones are worth pursuing and implementing and which ones are going to stick? And so, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, and I found, it's not just the new technology or changes in technology, but sometimes it just more important even is a mindset shift that needs to happen. What type of mindset shifts have you found that are helpful when switching technologies or introducing technologies that you've never used before?
Sure. Well, no humans like change. Well, actually, I take that back. I like change. There are people out there that do like change and thrive on it, but the basic human default is that if we know what to expect, then we don't have to think about those things. We can focus on our tasks at hand. And so when something changes out from under us, it stops us in our tracks, and there's discomfort around that. part of the discomfort is the loss in productivity. That, wait, I expected to be spending my time doing this, and now I have to go spend my time figuring something out, learning something new, troubleshooting why it might not work, implementing it, any of those steps along the way. But those are all necessary steps that will take you into, into the future. That they're one-time, momentary time stoppages that will be worth that time in the future because you won't have to spend that time again. So
Right.
that's kind of that's the first part, is just people don't like that loss of productivity. There's also the shock to your limbic system, right? Like if there's a sudden loud bang, you startle, right? And so when something's different in front of you, you get that same jolt, and that's an adrenaline jolt. And some people are adrenaline junkies, and some people don't ever want that sensation. And then the third one is the um, oh my God, I forgot what I was going to say. The third one is, oh, your loss of expertise. That we all have this pride in these things that we're good at, in calling ourselves experts. And so if you're an expert in accounting, and you're an expert in tax, and you're an expert in QuickBooks, and then all of a sudden that's ripped out from under you because you don't know, and you don't know any more than your clients do when something changes. And so there's that moment where you have to stand in the unknown and redevelop your expertise and redevelop the muscle memory. If your hand automatically knows where to go and you don't even think about it, that's great. So now your hand has to learn to go over here instead. So that's the um, for me, it's like reminding myself how my clients feel all the time.
Nice. Yeah. So even with that resistance to change, I mean, technology and being able to adapt it when needed, change it when needed, how do you feel like that plays a role in the success of a firm?
Well, all of the new software solutions out there were all designed to solve a problem that accountants were having, whether it's firm management or task management or analysis and advisory. Whatever, all the different elements of what we do. Somebody thought, oh, wow, what if we could train a piece of software to do this for us? And so that's pretty much how all the different software solutions were designed, whether it's AR software, payments and expense management software, ledger software, task list and practice management software. All of those are ways of organizing information and expediting it.
What are some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen firms make when building their tech stack?
Mm. Uh, there's when you're building a tech stack, the first biggest I mean, there's like different stages of it. One is vetting the software solutions, and the next one is implementing the software solution, and then the third one is using the software solution. And so, you had asked earlier about shiny object syndrome. And so it's that vetting process. It's like, oh, that's a really cool idea. Or it's okay, I know that this is an issue for us. What are my options? What are the different software packages that perform that function? And then doing the research and getting the demo and doing a test run and vetting it to find the right software for you. And then there's the time that it takes for the implementation, which can be significant depending on what it is. And then there's the buy-in. Then there's that change management that we were just talking about, where now you actually have to teach people to use it, get their buy-in, and ideally get them enthusiastic about it.
Right. Yeah. So you mentioned the time it takes to adopt new, well, research and adopt new software. And so we work with a lot of smaller firms, solopreneurs. And so that can be a difficult thing when you are a one-man shop or just a few of you working. How do you have any tips for how small firms can balance cost, even integration and usability when choosing technology?
The whole cliche about the niches or the riches are in the niches. This is one of those areas and one of those reasons why if your firm is a general practice firm, you're going to, and you have clients in all different industries, then you never have an opportunity to develop the perfect tech stack for that particular industry. All you can do is like hope that this one is the best one for their needs. But firms that focus on one type of client have much easier time because they can find the nuances. When do I choose one AP expense management solution over another? Or they have uh, a one pick and that's their expertise. And if you come on as a client, you're going to adapt this specific tech stack so that you as a firm owner aren't scrambling, having to like shift your brain away. Does it, oh, it's this way in this one and this way in this one. And then that way you can just get down to work because you don't have to think about which software you're using. It's why some people will be a QuickBooks house and some people will be a zero house, but then there's others that have to go back and forth between the two.
Yes, beautifully said. I think that's something that it took me a few years when I got into my firm, but that I realized eventually, and it just made it so much easier, like not just taking whatever the client's working with, all the systems, but hey, like here's what I work with. Let's get on board with that. Because like you said, I mean, having to learn all the different softwares and then switching your brain as you switch working from clients can even just the switch mentally can take time to get you
Hmm.
really in and being productive in what you're doing.
Yeah, and especially since all of the software solutions keep evolving and keep changing and rolling out new features, keeping
Right.
track of one of them can be a job, but keeping track of 10 of them can be really daunting. I mean, I know one bookkeeper who even insisted which bank her clients had to bank with in order
Oh,
to work with her because she was able to integrate the tech stack that she wanted with that particular bank very, very well. And some business owners thought that was a little odd, and I guess I kind of think it's a little odd, but I think it's an excellent, excellent systemat. I can't say it. Systematization. Systematization. There we go.
yeah. Yeah, that is, I mean, it almost sounds like it's taking it too far, but at the same time, I have worked with or had clients that have banks that like you can't give read-only access to. And then that's a whole nightmare of like you have to rely on the client to get you the statements and all the things and
Right.
researching. And so,
they
yeah,
they they're
interesting.
with a bank that doesn't integrate with QuickBooks, or they're with a bank that doesn't allow the statements and check images to come through. And there's
Yeah,
definite reasons to have preferences.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. So when you were talking about kind of adopting new technologies, another thing that you mentioned is getting buy-in. So how can leaders bring their teams along during these transitions and really get buy-in even earlier in the process?
Include the first thing is to include them in the vetting process. Find out what it is that they need and what are their requirements for what the software actually does. That whenever I'm doing a needs assessment with a company, like let's say I'm migrating them from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online, I go to everybody who's going to have their fingers in the pie because what the owner is going to say about it is not the same as what the people who are boots on the ground is going to say. And the owner sometimes doesn't even know what they don't know. And so I always talk to every single user, find out what they're going to need it to do, what they're going to make sure that it doesn't do, and find out what their needs are and make sure that that is incorporated into the selection process even from the beginning so that somebody isn't forced to adopt something that's not a best fit for their needs. So that's where it starts, is involving everybody in the conversation and making sure that they're heard.
Nice. Now let's switch it up a little bit and talk some about trends, AI, some of the new stuff on the market, right? What technology trends do you see that are shaping the accounting industry or will shape the accounting industry over the next few years?
Sure. Well, I mean, the elephant in the room is AI, so I kind of
Of
have
course.
have to start with that one. And it's funny because when I listen to feedback from QuickBooks users, so for example, Intuit has bet the farm on AI going back, 5 or 7 years. They've been working towards this point, and they're currently rolling out artificial intelligence into the software. And a lot of people, the feedback is, well, I didn't ask for this. And the next level of feedback is, well, can I switch it on and off when I want to use it and don't want to use it? And then there are people who are like, wait, okay, now I can do some of that analysis without having to actually take the time to pour through everything. And I sit in that category firmly myself because, as part of my reviews, I'm always running a P&L by month and then scanning it line by line by line, trying to find, looking for the 1 month that's too high or too low, and finding out, well, is there a business trend or is there an error in the data? And so now that QuickBooks Online has the ability to look for error detection anomalies, I'm happy because it points it out to me without me having to actually do that process. Um, but what's been interesting is listening to all the feedback, because while like I said, there's people who um, don't understand the context for why and haven't seen what it does yet, so they don't know the what. Their alternatives. So if they're like, well, if Intuit's going to do that, well, I'm just going to leave QuickBooks and go somewhere else. Well, the software does need to modernize and keep up with what's going on. I don't QuickBooks Online, the way it was actually 14-year-old software. It came out in 20. There's been several iterations over decades, but the format that we know with the left sidebar came out in 2012, I think. So it was already 13-year-old software. And, I don't want to use 13-year-old software. Like the whole World Wide Web, the whole internet used to have a left sidebar, but you don't ever see sites with left sidebars anymore. So it makes sense for the software to keep up with technology and trends. And at the same time, if you were going to change to another ledger system, if you didn't like all this AI, well, what are the modern ones? Like Digits and Puzzle, they're AI forward, they're AI based. So your alternative is more AI, not less AI.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of when you were talking, what came to my mind was QuickBooks Desktop and the transition from that. And it was like people were so stuck on QuickBooks top desktop. I felt like I started my firm 6-ish years ago. And so I just came right in on QuickBooks Online, never knew anything about QuickBooks Desktop. It worked in it, I would get a client here or there that was in it. And so then would have to get in it just enough to migrate it over and be like, what is this? This is like awful. But then you have people that were like stuck on it. That were like, I'm never leaving it. It's horrible. It's like,
And there still are people who firmly sit in that camp. Now, I do a lot of conversions. Like I even have a course about how to do conversions and a book on Amazon about how to migrate from desktop to online. And so I do these regularly, several times a year. And sometimes it's just a small little company, but at this point, it's really the big companies who haven't been able to move over until now.
yeah.
And the universal experience is delight. They come over and like there's this dashboard and they can see all their KPIs right on the screen when they log in, and they can see their AR in a graph, and they get over there and like, oh my God, this is really cool.
Yeah.
Whereas the people who have been doing it for this 14 years are having that trouble with the change management. The people who are brand new to it don't have the context. They don't have that experience of what it was versus what it is. And even all the stuff that we have to go through during this change, the all the things we were talking about, the fear, the loss of expertise, the loss of productivity, they don't have any of those experiences. They just get they just stand in the possibilities of what they can do now that they couldn't do in desktop. And I do want to be clear though that I'm not being cavalier and dismissing people's experiences, that it is frustrating to go through this time of change that we're in, and it's awkward and loss of productivity, and some things are a little buggy and it doesn't go as smoothly as we would like it to. So I'm not dismissing any and disrespecting any of that, but I am pointing out that context matters. That if, like you said, you only knew online, so online was great and desktop's the weird dinosaur. And so it really does, context matters.
True. So true. So then I know one of the big, I guess, scares or things that we have talked about a lot as AI has come out and then has quickly kind of taken over some key things is, well, what's going to happen to our industry? What's going to happen to us? So how can we keep our human touch while also embracing a lot of that new automation and things that can be very useful and helpful to us?
Yeah, I just came from Intuit Connect, and one of the things that they said a lot is they've had AI, and then they also talked about HI, human intelligence. So artificial intelligence and human intelligence. And there are just certain things that we bring to the table as human beings that AI is never going to be able to do. And as accountants, that's where we get to stand as still being necessary in the process. And I don't know how long it's going to take before you can have a receipt for a meal and know if it's owner draw, employee meeting, employee benefit, meals and entertainment. There's many different categories it can fit in depending on the context, and maybe someday QuickBooks will be able to, or any AI would be able to, like, look at your calendar and see if you're in a meeting with somebody and then know that it's actually meals, or realize that you're driving from place to place and therefore it's owner draw. I don't know if and when we're going to get to that point. So there's one element, and the other one is that, how do I want to say this? Um, we still are the ones who have to work with the psychology of our clients. That ain't no machine gonna be able to talk an owner through a decision about hiring or firing or what direction to take the business. Like, sure, Chat GPT can give you suggestions, but they're just going to reinforce whatever you fed it before. It's not going to be able to think outside the box. It's not going to be able to come up with new directions. And so, with the emphasis of moving the term bookkeeper to CAS, client advisory services, or client advisory services, accounting services, that's really where we stand, is that the act of bookkeeping is very much less about data entry than it is now about the relationship of you as the guide. Back in 1990, everything that I was doing as a bookkeeper was date, payee, dollar amount, memo, date, payee, dollar memo. And I literally spent my time typing transactions into QuickBooks. And now I don't have to do that. I can make a bank feed rule for anything that's routine. And that's just, not just one less thing that I have to do, but literally thousands less things that I have to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, from where I sit, I see it as an opportunity, right? Like we can transform to what is needed a lot more. And I feel like we can provide, with some of that automation being done, we can provide a higher level of service to them,
Mhm.
where AI really can't touch it. Just like you said, that human intelligence coming in and, okay, what is the story being told here? And then what can I take from that story to help my business
Mhm.
perform better?
Yeah, it does mean a shift in our skill sets. That
Right.
if you went into accounting because you're good with numbers, that might not be why to go into accounting. It's going to be much more about communication skills and relationship skills and counseling skills than it has been.
I joke all the time about how one of the roles that I play for my clients is being a counselor. So that's so funny you said that. I mean, I talked not too long ago with somebody on the podcast about how money is such an emotional state for people that it's one of those things that it touches every area of your life. And so you can find yourself acting as a counselor for some of your clients sometimes. True.
Yeah, some of a lot of my appointments turn into accounting therapy. That it's, making them feel better about their business or their life based on their data.
Yeah.
Um, and the other thing, the other pivot that we also need to make is because it's no longer about getting the data in and looking backwards. It's also, the AI is not going to get things right for a long time. And I think as pro advisors, as for people who are doing the bookkeeping piece of it, learning the troubleshooting and cleanup is and so conversions, cleanups, and troubleshooting is probably the practical skill that you need to learn more than anything else, because we're not going to be the people putting the transactions in, but we are going to be the people making sure those transactions are correct.
Yes. Yeah, and one thing that we haven't mentioned yet is too, I mean, you just said something about integrations, right? But yeah, I mean, the more technology there is, the more technologies you have working together, and you need somebody managing all of those. And when it's connecting with your accounting software, like that's just one more area that you need to be on top of and know how it's working and coming in. So. That
Yeah,
will
that's a good point. That's another role that
that
we can play is technology specialist. So if you're somebody who is a computer geek, you can actually be in this CAS CPA accounting world as somebody who specializes in the different technologies. I mean, I've heard that there's one agency that just specializes in double, formerly known as keeper, and they'll
Mhm.
go in and take a look at how you have it set up and make recommendations. Or there's Asana specialists who will come in and take a look at your Asana setup and set it up and clean it up for you. And so those are all accounting adjacent tools. They're not doing the bookkeeping, they're not doing the CAS, but they're crucial to the success of the business owner.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. So we've talked a lot about QuickBooks. Are there any other go-to tools or platforms that you think every small business or small firm should be using?
There is no one size fits all. And I think I would be remiss to like say, this is the tech stack that you need to use. I don't think I could say that with any in any kind of valid way, but I will say that there's tools that I have used in a new way that make all the difference in the world for me. So, for example, Fathom is a tool that records my Zoom meetings. And whether it's Fathom or there's other recorders out there, Fireflies, there's several different ones, but I think that is necessary. Um, these days we all Zoom, or maybe it's Microsoft Teams, or whatever software you choose to meet virtually. We're all meeting virtually. And because I record all of those sessions, I actually now have a 3-year history of almost literally every conversation that I have had. And even recently, one of my clients' CPAs came back to me and said, "Well, all those changes that you made last year, or you made some changes that now the books don't match last year's close." And I'm like, well, I don't think I've done anything wrong. All those changes that I made were they're cash basis. So it should be fine. And he's like, they're not cash basis, they're accrual. I'm like, hmm. So I actually pulled up the session where we had actually done the work, myself and the client. And I actually screen share when I'm doing the cleanup work. So they're seeing what I'm doing. I don't work independently. Like they're watching me do the work. And there's me saying, well, are you cash or accrual basis? And they said, okay, we're cash. And I said, okay, well, if it's accrual, I would do this. And if it's cash based, I will do this. And she said, go ahead and do this. So I went ahead and I cleaned it up cash basis. And then he's like, well, they're accrual. And I'm like, well, can you go verify with them? And they came back and they were cash. And so I had it on video that I didn't mess up their books. And so it was nice having the validation of actually having asked the right questions and having recorded the answers, which literally got me off the hook.
Brilliant. Yeah, I use Fathom as well, and there have been many times where I've gone back and referenced, and it is nice to have them there.
Yeah.
Very
E-
useful.
even even when I'm doing a client assessment, that I can look back at what we said and I can ask it, well, what were our next steps and what are our action items? And then going into my appointment 3 months later that I'm never going to remember, I can actually go review the last appointment and the
Yep.
conversation that we had. And so for me, that's been a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah, I use it too. I mean, because it gives you the full transcript, it gives you a summary. So I've used that summary a lot to send, just a meeting review email to the client to show, here's what we talked about, here's your action items, here's my action items. So yes, very useful.
I even give them the link to the meeting so
Mhm.
that they can go back and review it themselves. So I've
Yeah.
got full transparency and I don't have to have the same conversation over and over again
Yeah.
because they can just go back and look at what I told them back then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, so to wrap us up here, if you could give one piece of advice to a firm owner or a solopreneur that's just feeling overwhelmed by all of the tech and what do I do? And so just kind of stay frozen and don't do anything, what would it be?
Pick one part of it that would make the most difference. Whatever's going to give you the biggest bang for the buck. And carve out the time to actually go and learn it, whether it's watching videos or trying it out yourself, trying it with your own data, trying it out with fake data, whatever you need to do to get comfort with it. That things are uncomfortable when it's unknown, but as soon as something becomes unknown, you get the comfort and then eventually it just becomes natural. And your goal is to get to the point where it's all muscle memory, where you just know what to do. And then, so that's the best advice that I can give.
That is great advice. Thank you, Alicia, so much for talking with me today. This has been hugely insightful.
Well, I'm very, very glad. I mean, training is what I do. I have a master's in teaching. And so being able to help clarify these issues is always the first step to actually helping people move through to where they want to be.
So if anyone wants to connect with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, my website is royalwise.com, and I have a vast QBO training library at learn.royalwise.com. And if you need any help with QuickBooks or in particular, I do, deep dives into literally everything there is to know about the software. So I'm more than happy to answer questions, troubleshoot, and train.
Awesome. All right, well, that is it for today's episode. At CPA Moms, we believe women can have a successful career and raise a happy family. If you are ready to embrace work-life harmony and connect with like-minded women, join our CPA Moms Facebook community. Just click the link in the show notes or search CPA Moms on Facebook. We can't wait to welcome you. Until next time, thank you for being here. We see you, we believe in you, and we can't wait to grow with you.